Speakses.
So, see, in the past, you've brought up your sort of, I think you referred to it as a customer service situation.
Yeah.
And I had one the other day, and I wanted to share it with you.
Please.
I was out. Well, first of all, I've come to realize that stores don't seem to sell photo albums anymore.
Right.
And I realized, I guess that's just something that's going away because everything's digital now.
Right.
Do you have, I'm sure you have photo albums.
We do. They're all not catered. They're all curated by my wife.
Right.
And I think they're like, oh gosh, there's a side, it's not a pyramid scheme, but it's close. It's one of those things.
A side hustle?
Yeah, it's a side hustle that she's purchased them from. I don't know what the name of it is.
Oh, it's like a scrapbooking thing?
Cherished Memories or something like that.
Oh.
You know what I'm talking about.
I
so
know.
maybe they have a corner on that, but I'm sorry.
No, it's so that's what kind of got me out of the house, believe it or not, was I said, I got to go. I've got this box of old pictures. I'm going to get some. Anyway, that's not even part of the customer service thing.
Okay.
So I'd gone to a couple stores. Well, I ended up at Target because I'm thinking Target has kind of become that place that you feel like they're going to have pretty much whatever you need.
Right.
But then when I got there, I ended up seeing that they had some meat on sale. Now, I would not normally buy meat at Target.
Okay.
It's something that feels weird about that.
It does oddly feel weird. I think of them more of a department store that has some food that's frozen.
Right.
You know what I mean? Nothing but meat. I'm actually surprised they actually sold meat.
Yeah, you may not have even known it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It feels like, buying milk at JCPenney or something. It just doesn't work for me. But I was just passing, and I do love meat, as we've talked about just very recently.
Very recently. And some more tonight. You don't even realize it. We're going to talk about meat again.
Good. We should just make that a routine. We always talk about meat. So I saw, and I'm also the kind of guy, and I'd be curious on your take here, but I am the guy that will look at the quote unquote manager special, which is like, this is going bad real soon.
Right.
Because I'll just buy it and make it that night.
Yeah.
And it's a good deal.
I think it's a smart move.
So Target had a 3-pack of chicken breast
Okay.
it was like $8 and it was $5 off.
Okay.
And it very clearly said on the package, scan the chicken, and then it was like, then scan this one to get the $5 off.
Right.
And I'm looking at it, and I'm going, okay, how much of a hassle is this going to be at checkout? It should be pretty straightforward.
Right.
I also got a 6-pack of Yingling that was $2 off.
Okay.
But it was sort of the same deal. So I'm like, man, this is great. I love going to the store and getting stuff on sale. It wasn't what I went there for. They didn't have, shocker, they also didn't have picture albums or whatever.
Right.
So then I get to the checkout, and my first thought is I'm going to do the self-checkout. And then I thought, you know what? Coupons. And not only that, like I had to show my ID for the beer.
Right.
Lovely young lady beckoned me over to her line, right? So I go into her line, and she is really cute. She's like kind of aggressively pierced, but can pull it off type of thing.
Right.
She asked for my ID because of the beer, and we had the same birthday, she was like very.
You guys are hitting it off.
She's like, we have the same birthday. Everything's going great. And I'm just thinking, man, this is a good little experience here. And I just said to her, now, a couple of these things are on sale. I'm not sure. I don't know about you. Sometimes I don't want to advertise that I have a coupon. I don't know if it makes me feel cheap or what, but it's like, you're not really sure how to present it. Like, I don't want to be the person that shows up like, I've got coupons, like wave it at them.
So you're a little bit embarrassed almost. That you're there. Yeah. But you're saving money and you're a dad.
Right.
So it balances out.
Right. Especially after this, cute, young cashier has like kind of bonded with me. And now I got to say like, well, hey, I'm buying the spoiled meat essentially. I'm buying it's $5 off. But I said, hey, I want to make sure, if you don't mind, these had these little things on them. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do. And she goes, oh, they come off automatically. And I was like, okay, well, I think it says you got to scan, 2 stickers, but whatever, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Well, of course, my total comes and it's like, $43 or something. I go, can you check that? It looks like I don't think it took it off.
Right.
And she goes, well, go ahead and pay. And I'm like, well, can you just make sure it gets taken off? She goes, it gets taken off automatically. And so now I've got people behind me and I'm going,
oh, the pressure.
do I become a Karen right now?
Yeah.
I no longer care that she's cute.
Right.
And I think that's something too about getting older, where I don't care. I'm no longer in any sort of flirt mode or whatever. I want the $5 off this chicken. I want the $2 off this beer. Well, I end up just caving and run my card.
Right.
She hands me the receipt, and I go, okay, yeah, I didn't take it off. So now what do we do? She goes, the customer service line's over there. She goes, I'm pretty sure it took it off, but if it didn't, you can get it at the customer service. And I go, then for the first time during the whole exchange, the hackles do start to go up.
Yeah.
And it's like, all of a sudden, I start getting like some pearls around my neck.
Yeah.
I get the wedge haircut. Like I am turning into Karen. I can feel it. It's like turning into a werewolf, but instead you're turning into John and Kate +8.
Right. And there's going to be a manager spoken to at the end of this conversion to a beast.
And no matter whether I'm in the right or I'm in the wrong, I am the asshole at this point if I keep pushing it to everyone behind me.
Right.
It doesn't matter. You know, it's true. If you're standing behind somebody, you see them.
There is pressure.
You're like if I see somebody doing any sort of like showing of the receipt, I'm mad. I'm not mad at the cashier. I'm mad at that person. I'm like, dude,
I agree with you.
Move it on. So the only thing I said back to her, I looked at her, studded nose and colored hair and same birthday self. And I just said, so I have to go get in that line now to get the, and she's like, yeah, they can take care of anything for you. And I just was like, okay. I mean, because there was a big line. Because I had noticed it when I came in. Like, thank God I'm not returning anything today.
Well, they're probably all of her customers.
Exactly. So I go over there, and they're also incredibly confused. And I keep telling them, after I wait in line, I'm like, you got to scan this one first and then this one.
Right.
And she finally just goes, I'm just going to give you, I'm going to just do a thing here and give you $7 back.
Which is what she should have done.
Yeah. And those $7 are the $7 I gave you today.
Well, thank you.
To pay for. Steve's been footing the bill for the coffee. And so now you got a partial payment back for the coffee and cash.
I appreciate that. I'm glad there's a story with that.
Yeah.
I feel good about that now that there's some sort of like a journey. It's like the sisterhood of traveling pants.
Yeah, it was. There's a whole story. This $7 came from Target customer service. So I don't know that I had a real moral to that story other than I'm this close to just being full out Karen. And I don't know. What do you think? Is that something I should curtail, or do we just lean into it at this point?
I think you hold off a little bit with that. You got to work on your hair. You got to at least get a haircut like mine that is a little bit more feminine first, and just I think ease into it there. Okay. You don't want to take too much of a bold step. I think you just take your time, and it'll come naturally to you.
I think you're right. Well, welcome to Origin of Species. My name is Scott, not yet Karen. I'm here with my good friend Steve, and we've got a great show. What are we talking about today, Steve?
Well, we have I'll say we have a bovine theme to our show. The origin of this show was I wanted to do an animal theme show. Our meat part 2 episode a few weeks back really got me fired up. To do meat. I wanted to do a cow themed show, so I started doing some research on cow themed idioms. And as you know, seems often to happen to me, I start in one place and end up totally in another place.
Yes.
So there will be a little bit of a bovine theme, and I will bring some cow facts. I decided early on, I'm like, I see where this is going. And spoiler, it's not going to be any minstrel shows. The last time I tried to do an animal show, I ended up doing Uncle Tom and Jim Crow.
That's right. That did start as an animal show.
It did take a dark turn, but this one will be more about sex. So we have that going for us too. So give me a chance to also say clitoris.
Yeah.
Actually, there's no reason for me to say that, but I just did. But I think you're going to enjoy the show. So I'm going to tell you about the first idiom we're going to do, or actually euphemism, I think is probably the best way to describe it. And that is going to be, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Okay.
See, I was wondering how you went from a cow episode to a sex-related episode. And
but you'll see. And I'll save our last phrase or term or euphemism as a surprise for everyone who didn't read the title or can't look down at their phone as I speak.
Right.
But I'm just going to pretend we live in that magic world where that doesn't happen. But first, I'm going to give you some cow facts to get us started.
Hit me.
So this is from Encyclopedia Britannica Online. Just some basic cow facts here. Domestic cows are one of the most common farm animals around the world, and the English language has several words to describe these animals at various ages. A baby cow, calf. A female calf is sometimes called a heifer calf, and a male a bull calf. A heifer is a female that has not had any offspring. The term normally refers to immature females. An adult male is a bull. Many male cattle are castrated to reduce their aggressive tendencies and make them more tractable.
Interesting.
Yeah, and young neutered males are primarily raised for beef, and they are called steers or bullocks.
Oh,
so
bullocks. It is interesting that the heifer, that's one where I don't know if people still use it anymore, but I just specifically remember girls like in my middle school going, "Oh, I feel like such a heifer right now."
It is.
I don't know if that's still around. But that's the young, more trim cow. So that's not even...
It could be.
A cut down, yeah.
But something that I liked learning about cows too is the term cow is used for both female individuals and all domestic bovines. So sometimes cows get a rap for being bad for the environment because of their methane from their flatulence.
Right.
They're very progressive
progressive.
with their pronouns, I guess. They're just cows. So they have that. So if they have a Twitter site, they're probably have a blue check and are getting some people
we should look to the cow, because that would be I think that would solve everything if we just made a word. Oh, I guess we have one. Man or mankind, but that doesn't work. We'll come up with something new.
Well, the one concern I have though about the cow being progressive is they're also one of the mascots for Chick-fil-A. So that might that might get them canceled for that.
That's right.
So our first idiom is, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? And I'm very happy to say that the majority of my research originated with Barry Popik's website, barrypopik.com. So Barry Popik is a friend of the show. We've had him on before. We reference him a lot. If you see our Twitter on Twitter at Speakses, you will see every day I quote Barry Popik. He's one of the great, I think, enthusiasts of words that's out there, and we use him a lot. So I was very happy that we get to draw all my research pretty much originated with him. So in summary, this is an idiom that the origin's pretty clear. It comes out around 1890 is the first time it's used, pretty close to its final form. I'm going to talk about some of the books that have used it and some of the stories around the authors that did that. This was one of my, I'd say, I've enjoyed the research for this more than a lot of them. So it's pretty clear origin of where this came from. And one of the things that's funny, or I found interesting at least, that the person who coined this is a doctor who also was one of the founders of the American Urological Association.
That's amazing.
It is. So we're going to learn a lot about somebody I enjoy, Dr. Ferdinand C. Valentine, and you're going to hear a lot about his life as we go on. That
sounds like a fake name for sure. Doesn't that sound fake?
It sounds extremely fake. Yeah. And if I hadn't verified facts of his life and also his novelette, from which the term comes from, that you're going to learn a lot about. If it's one of those things, I wouldn't believe it if it wasn't true.
I'm just sad that he's dead now, right? Because you said 1890 or something.
Oh, yeah.
I wish he was around, because I'd love to have him on the show just to...
Well, in a way, he is around, and we're going to talk about some things he did that still exist.
Very nice.
So, what is the definition of this idiom? So, from barrypopik.com, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Or, why buy a cow when the milk's so cheap? Means that you needn't buy something when it's being offered cheaply or even for free. The adage most frequently has been applied to marriage, but can also apply to free/pay internet websites. If a woman freely has sex with a man, the adage popularly intends, why should he marry her? So,
well, this has never occurred to me before.
Yeah.
But the alternative is prostitution, right?
Yeah.
Or just putting a ring on it, I guess.
I think that's, yeah. So
I know that's the thrust of it, but
right.
When you think about it, it's like, if she's willing to do it for free, well, the alternative is that you're paying, right? I mean, really, if you think about it.
Well, for the man. And I believe that the adage also gets at that if a male is in a position that will say anything he can do in a meatloaf paradise by the dashboard light sort of way. And to make sure we show #diversity, at the conclusion, I will give a female version of this joke to make sure that we're showing both sides. So I was
going to say, this is not very PC. I don't even know if people say PC anymore.
Probably not. Yeah. Probably would get canceled for that.
That'll be what gets us.
Yeah, that'll be what gets us. But again, I'd say we're definitely #diversity, #pride, hashtag CYA. I mean, that's the way that we try to live. So that's Barry Popik's definition. But lately we've been speaking a lot of the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah.
And I feel like we'd leave them out if we didn't get their take on this term. So from our friends at Urban Dictionary, they shorten it to milk for free. A term used to say that instead of intimacy in a relationship, you can get the sex for free via slut, whore, prostitute, etc.
Wow.
Also in the statement, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? And then there's a quotation. Caboose. My dad always said, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? Church. Hey, rookie, did you just call my girlfriend a cow? Tucker. No, dude. I think he called her a slut.
Right. Either way, it's bad, but
yeah,
let's get it right.
And thank you, Urban Dictionary, for always keeping us humble with your very Urban Dictionary definitions for everything. So to give us to kind of, I think, reiterate a little bit more. Often, this term is often used in the context of if someone is in a relationship, if you have given a level of intimacy,
right, that
perhaps the person that has been chasing you won't be as eager to chase you anymore.
Yeah, the implication is don't put out. Wait for him to propose to you.
Put a ring on it.
Put a ring on it. It also reminds me of when I first heard you say that this was what we were going to do, the first thing I thought of was Brody from Mallrats quoting his grandmother saying, why buy the cow when you can get the sex for free? Which isn't that funny, but for some reason I can't forget it. It's burned into my mind.
And I've actually, if I've ever come close to using this idiom, I generally say that one just to see if someone... Did I tell you that earlier this year, someone at work, something came up, and I believe it involved a schooner. And someone else and fortunately we weren't in the office together and communicated. We acknowledged that a Mallrats reference had been made. And I have to tell you, I felt so dirty at the end of the day. I felt ashamed.
Yeah.
That as a movie has not aged well.
It hasn't, but it's very weird because looking back on it, I mean, if you try to rewatch it, it's bad. As is, in my opinion, every Kevin Smith movie. Maybe not Clerks, but I kind of missed Clerks when it came out and don't get it. I mean, I get it, I guess, but for some reason, those quotes in Mallrats stay with us. I mean, it's hard not to go to the mall, and maybe that's why. Because you go to the mall and you just want to be like, that kid is back on the escalator, and it's somehow you're amused by it, and then you try to watch the movie and it's not amused. But the schooner sailboat thing, I call people, actually, now I got to tell this story.
Yeah.
I may have told you this. I went to a birthday party about 2 or 3 years ago. My friend Amy, who's also how I met Lauren Bingo Knowles.
Nice.
And I think she might have been at this party. And there was someone I had met, I think once before, Amy's friend named Trish. And Trish is married to this guy named Wayne or something.
Okay.
I don't remember. But anyway, I walked into the party, which was at a bar, and Amy's like, you remember Trish? And I said, Trish the Dish. And the guy must not have seen Mallrats, or maybe he did actually, which is worse.
Yeah.
And he just looked at me, and I was like, trying to laugh it off, and he was not happy.
Wow.
And later I said something to Amy, I was like, I don't think he likes that I said that. She's like, yeah, he doesn't. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess I shouldn't just randomly call people that are married Trish the Dish, but I can't not call someone named Trish the Dish. And if you don't get that, then I'm sorry you didn't watch Mallrats when you were between the ages of like 15 and 19. Yeah. But
I actually watched a couple clips today trying to find that soundbite that we referenced. And I came across the part that Trish the Dish, that I had forgotten this, is playing. The character is supposed to be a 15-year-old girl.
Yes, that's right.
Who is having sex with
Ben Affleck. Well, lots of guys.
Who is 25. The character is, I'm like, okay.
Well, I guess Affleck that's hauled off in...
he does. So I guess there is justice. So maybe Kevin Smith is more woke than we realize.
Right. But it's also... This is gonna end up. That movie has aged terribly. Yeah. Let's spend 15 minutes on it. But actually, another good line is the whole thing about how do I put this delicately? Probably I can't. But it just ends with the punchline is what, like the back of a Oldsmobile or no? Shit,
back of a Volkswagen.
A lot of good lines if you're 15, but we can't go. If you and I watched that today, having never seen it before,
right?
I don't know what the reaction would be.
Right.
But having seen at the age we did,
and at the same time, after we just went out of our way to badmouth Kevin Smith.
Kevin Smith sucks. But
here's 20 minutes about a movie,
right.
that we don't like that we saw 30 years ago.
Right, exactly.
I blame Urban Dictionary. So a resource that is not the Urban Dictionary is barrypopik.com. Barry Popik is the best. If you get a chance, if you're interested in words and phrases and don't necessarily want to listen to a guy with a beard or a bandana telling you about it, go to his website.
He's our inspiration, and he's like a serious etymologist. So.
Yeah, he actually is good at his job. So the first quote that he lists comes from August 1890 from a literary magazine called The Arena. And the quote is this: "My mother did not hesitate to openly declare that Aunt Helen had been deserted by numerous lovers because, to quote my mother, why should they buy a cow when milk was so cheap?" So very close to the,
I think that's
for
it,
free.
Man.
And I think there's almost a good double entendre with cheap being in there too.
I agree. That's actually better.
So The Arena was a literary and political magazine from Boston, Massachusetts, founded in 1889, final issue published in August 1909. But I wanted to do some research, and Barry Popik made it very easy by linking to Google Books right from there. And I had a chance to actually read the novella from where this comes from.
Wow.
And then do some research on who this person was.
The Arena sounds like something that Brian Fantana from Anchorman would call his penis. Because you remember the octagon?
Yeah.
And I still don't get that. It's just funny. I don't know why you would call your junk the octagon.
Yeah.
But if you can call it the octagon, you can call it the Arena.
Yeah. Or why would you say snoochie boochies to somebody as a sign off?
Yeah.
But who knows?
Snoogans.
So in The Arena is published a novelette, Shadow of the Noose. The Shadow of the Noose, a novelette by Ferdinand C. Valentine. So before I read this book to you, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm not gonna read the whole thing, but I'm gonna take you through the story. But I think it helps to know a little bit about Ferdinand C. Valentine, or actually his true name, Dr. Ferdinand C. Valentine.
Oh, you scared me. I thought you were going to say his real name was like, Josephus Mulberry or something.
It could be.
That would actually be a cool name too. I was trying to think of a really boring name.
No. Josephus, I could see him teaming up with Ferdinand C. Valentine.
Yeah.
So, from the William P. Dittich Center for Urologic History, which is sponsored by the American Urological Association, fairly certain this is the first time that we've referenced him. A quick bio on Ferdinand C. Valentine. Ferdinand Valentine, MD, was born on March 22, 1851, aboard his grandfather's vessel registered in Germany. In his early years, his family moved to the United States. Valentine received his medical degree from what became the Missouri Medical College, graduating in 1876. After serving in the Army, Dr. Valentine revisited Europe to study genitourinary diseases and urologic surgery. Valentine was one of the founders of the American Urological Association, its first secretary and its third president. He died December 13, 1909, at his home in Belle Harbor, Long Island, New York.
Well, this was a man that loved urethras. I mean,
he did.
If you think about it, because do you ever have that moment where you wonder about people that do certain medical stuff? Like, I had to go to a podiatrist once, and the guy was as creepy as you would think. Like it was weird. I was like, this guy's weird. And people that do stuff like, genital medicine.
Yeah.
You wanna think like, why are you fascinated with that? But on the other hand, like, it's a good niche. I mean, you can make money with it.
I think that's one of the things is it's a niche. It's something that there's probably not a lot of competition. You're not going to go into town and go,
right.
If you're looking for an optometrist, you got a lot of selections. If you need somebody to work on the mouth of your genitals, there's probably a better medical term, but you know what I mean. You want Ferdinand C. Valentine. So even though Dr. Valentine specialized in urology, wasn't the only thing he did. He wrote a novelette.
That is wild.
Well, you think that's wild. Wait till you hear this story. So I've actually took the time to read this story, and I will read the opening for you and then describe the rest of the book. So the book opens thusly. But 3 weeks to live. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours, 30,240 minutes, 1,814,400 seconds. Numerically expressed, they look large, but how these seconds whisk by into the eons of the past.
Was this Rent?
So are you intrigued? I am. And if you're not, I'm still going to tell you the rest of the story. So soon after, we learn that the narrator has indeed killed a man.
Ooh.
But before we learn who, he flashes back to his days as a child and discusses his father. In the first flashback, we learn that the narrator, his name is Robert, and his father's sitting down one day in a chair. Robert walks up to his father and bites him on the ear.
Oh, I thought you were going to say urethra.
No, not yet.
Okay.
This was 1890.
Okay, so his father bites him on the ear.
No, Robert bites his father on the ear.
My bad. Go ahead.
As the father falls down with a bleeding ear, his mother and the rest of the family comes in and accuses the father of somehow attacking the son.
Oh, okay.
Very shortly later, we're presented another flashback scenario where Robert's mother has burned his father's novel right after she found out he received a contract from a publisher.
That's just spiteful.
And that was the last time Robert saw his father. And if this sounds convoluted and
awkward. It is convoluted. Yeah.
It is.
Did she burn the script to get back at him for beating up the kid? What, you know what I mean?
We'll find out later why exactly she did. But
I actually am kind of intrigued. This is bizarre.
It is bizarre. So after she finds out that her husband's received a publishing contract, she burns the manuscript and then tells him.
Right, like in your face.
Yeah.
I hope you had that saved.
Had it backed up on ye old Microsoft Office, which I don't think he did. Flash forward from our flashback a few more years. Robert is in the room of a lady friend who is married. Mm-hmm. After she confides to Robert that her husband beats her, said husband arrives and attacks both of them. Oh. And as we know from the movie Roadhouse, the proper thing to do is you should rip his throat out.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in 1890, Dr. Valentine was a urologist, not a ear, nose, and throat. Maybe if he had taken a different, if he had specified a different area, maybe things would turn out different. But he shoots him instead of ripping his throat out. But
or
which
ripping
is okay.
his, testicles off or something.
So shortly thereafter, we find out from his grandmother that the reason the mother did all those things to her father, his father, was because he was not, even though they were married, he wasn't from a high-class family.
Okay.
And once you're hearing this and thinking, this isn't a very good story.
Oh, that's it?
No, it gets better.
Okay.
4 days before Robert is scheduled to be executed, we learn this is all a fever dream from typhoid fever.
Whoa. Yeah. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. And again, I haven't had any novelettes published.
That. Did you enjoy that? Or were you, all kidding aside, did you enjoy it or were you like, this is pretty dumb?
I was getting pretty judgmental until he bites his father in the ear for no reason. And it's a plot loop that's really never closed or plot hole. But again, if it's a typhoid fever
dream. How old was
dream,
the kid?
I think he was 8.
Well, but hey, maybe that was a good writing because he's subtly letting the reader know, like, this is a little bizarre. Like, this is, you know what I mean? You look back and you go,
it's a dream.
This was a fever dream. That's why it makes more sense.
And maybe also his way to make clear that he's going to be doing urethras and not ear, nose, and throat.
Right. Wow. But it is insane that this is the same guy. This guy was born on his dad's vessel in Germany, came to the United States, went back to Europe, wrote this thing. Meanwhile, he's like Mr. Urinary tract guy. Mm-hmm. Pretty interesting guy. And to top it all off, the name. The name sounds like a fake name that someone would come up with on like a, like a dating site. They didn't want to get caught.
It does.
Or like what's the one that cheat on your spouse site?
Yeah. And Ron Mexico had been taken, so he decided
Carlos Danger, Ron Mexico.
So I did need to check. I was wondering if there are multiple Ferdinand C. Valentines, and I did some research and confirmed that he is actually the same person. And just to conclude, I found a memoir about him from the American Urological Association's 8th annual meeting, which was transcribed. It was in June of 1909, where there's a memorial for Dr. Valentine published. I like this one line. Dr. Valentine was a very talented man and a linguist of several tongues. Personally, he was a man of charming temperament, a big heart, infinite human understanding and sympathy, a man of whom one may truly say to him, nothing human was foreign. So a very nice, I think, fitting end for Dr. Valentine. Dr. Ferdinand C. Valentine is still with us in a way, as there's the Ferdinand C. Valentine Medal that's given out every year to certain urologists who do whatever urology things you do to get medals.
Excellence in working on the PP.
Yeah. But speaking of which, I thought it would be fun to look at some other things that were discussed in this journal. And I shall share them with you, and you'll hear very shortly how this informed our second idiom or euphemism that we're going to do. So just some of the highlights of this journal include pus tubes in a male,
Ew.
surgical and vaccine treatment,
Gross.
a new bladder irrigator by G.S. Peterkin. These names are fun too.
Yeah, they are. This is all good.
An improved double current rectal tube.
Ew, I don't even want to know what that's for.
No, and you don't want to know this either. The persistence of gonococcus in the prostate. So a little teaser for some other things that we'll discuss later. Oh. So you might wonder, why are we here? I'll tell you. To remind you that the first use of why buy a cow when you can get the milk for free, the first use of it was the very close, why should they buy a cow when milk was so cheap? And that was written by
Dr.
Ferdinand C. Valentine.
It's pretty cool. This phrase was because it makes sense that that is probably a phrase that was used by other, urologists, because they're seeing all this stuff, and it's probably something that they would say.
Yeah,
and then he put it into his novella. So it's actually, I like it when something clicks like that and it's real. Like this isn't a folk etymology,
right?
But it almost could be, right? You could see sitting around going. So you know that story about, well, it came from a urologist who saw a bunch of messed up stuff below the belt, and no, it actually is.
Yeah. So, and also gave me a chance to say the term rectal tubes.
Yeah, you said like dual rectal colon tube. I don't know, whatever.
I've deleted the link. Yeah, I'm not going to look back. I'm going to have to listen back to the tape to see what I actually said.
Yeah.
So as you notice, that wasn't the final form that we normally say. Right. Why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? So we're going to kind of watch how this evolves. And again, thank you to Barry Popik as I'm using his research. Another evolution of this term came from a book entitled Proverbs of the Pennsylvania Germans by Edwin Miller Fogel in the year 1929. And the term in this book is used, why buy a cow when you can get the milk at 10 cents a quart?
That makes it dirtier somehow.
It does somehow. And I like the thriftiness of getting, not just it's cheap, it's 10 cents a quart.
And who is this, German Pennsylvania Dutch or something?
This is Proverbs of the Pennsylvania Germans, which we would know from previous episodes of discussing our friends the Dutch, who we need to bring back up to help.
That's right.
To cleanse their name from what MC Search said about them.
Right.
My wife's family is from the Lancaster County area of Pennsylvania, Pennsylvania Dutch. So I can kind of see a little bit of this thriftiness as it's gone down through the years. So I wanted to see what, from this book, which was published in 1929, maybe some other proverbs that the Pennsylvania Dutch had for us. So
if they are as exciting as that one, because that one was good.
Yeah. So here's a couple. First one, what's the use when milk is spilled? It is folly to cry over spilled milk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's so methodical. You can just picture some guy like very methodically saying these to his kids.
And potentially this is the origin of why cry over spilled milk. Who knows? That was on the table for this, but we're not going to do it. Here's another one. More than one cow yields white milk.
I don't get that one.
I don't either.
Oh, I get it. Maybe it's like there's more fish in the sea.
Yeah. Maybe that's a good way, and they wouldn't know about fish being in Pennsylvania.
And if you're in, more than one cow has white milk, and some of them you can get for 10 cents a gallon.
Yeah.
And some of them you got to marry?
Perhaps.
There's some worlds going on. There's something happening in there.
If you get to be as old as a cow, you'll learn some more anyhow. And the quote is actually S apostrophe more.
Yeah.
So maybe there were some Pennsylvania Dutch rappers back then.
Yeah. I mean, they're really. I mean, I know their lives certainly must have revolved around the farm and cows, but they're really going for it.
Yeah. So just a few more.
Yeah.
I can feel people turning it off on their phones.
Yeah, who cares? I like this. This is good. Keep going. Well, I guess we should care if people don't want to turn it off. But
if it is big as a cow, it will continue to increase.
Now that one hits home for me.
But it starts with an and the previous proverbs don't relate to it. So I don't know what, that was strange. And if it is big as a cow, it will continue to increase. Not sure what they're going for with that.
Yeah.
So another one, at night, every cow is black, which maybe is very tolerant. It's not a capital B black, but maybe this is like the precursor to we're all black when the lights are off. We're all black in the dark.
There's a lot of ways you could. I think it's trying to say, we're all the same underneath or whatever. Yeah. But a lot of ways you could spin that, and I'm sure only the bad ways would be. We probably shouldn't try to bring that one back.
Yeah. The next one, I can't tell if if this is better or worse in context of the previous one. Black cows yield white milk. I think that could go both ways. Let's just drop that one.
Yeah,
that sounds problematic.
I think we probably should have cut off. You were right. We probably should have cut off a couple.
But I am going to conclude with one that I found baffling. It comes in fits and starts like milk from a buck.
Okay. Well, first of all, a buck? Well, first of all, that wasn't even, a buck's not a cow. What the hell is a buck? Because that wasn't one of the things you mentioned earlier.
No. And
is buck a guy?
From what I've researched, there are no male animals, there are no female animals that are called a buck.
Oh, ooh.
And maybe there is a lesson there. If it comes in fits and starts like milk from a buck.
Yeah, it's actually, as growing up on the farm, you want to make sure that's an udder. And maybe that's where this is headed, and we'll just maybe leave it at that.
Yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Yeah. That's my last proverb.
Okay.
But I want to take us to when we get to the actual proper use of it. It comes to 1953, and the quote is, "But why should he want to marry her? Why buy the cow when you're getting the milk free?" And this comes back to a book called Tuner Schooner by Mary Laswell.
Tuner Schooner.
And I'm going to tell you about this.
Wait a minute. You mean schooner or sailboat? Oh, Mallrats is always with us.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even put that together. This is, again, this is good a minute 30 of us discussing how much we don't like Mallrats. Yeah. So the book Tuner Schooner is part of a book series called Suds in Your Eye that I had the opportunity to do some research on. And I have to say, I didn't get a chance to read this book before, but it was very interesting finding reviews on Amazon and actually in Goodreads of people who very fondly remember this book.
Oh.
So to tell you about this series, Tuner Schooner was, I believe, the 5th book in the series. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about the first book. I'm going to read an Amazon review from Queen Quack on Amazon.com. Suds in Your Eye introduce us to the marvelous Mrs. Annie Feely, Miss Agnes Harriet Tinkham, and Mrs. Erna Rossman. These ladies are banding together during World War II to lend each other sisterly support and companionship. This is a bygone era when the ladies address each other using their last names and titles. I had to read all 6 Suds books to discover each of their names. And then she describes some of the different characters. Mrs. Feely is a gutsy and brash leader of the pack, spouting such quotes as, "Not as long as my pooper points down."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
And maybe, she needed some of those double rectal tubes that we were discussing.
I am so confused. So Tuner Schooner, is this a children's book?
No, it's about a bunch of old ladies or older ladies that live together in San Diego and drink beer.
Well, okay, hence
the Suds that are mentioned.
Okay, so when you were describing it for a minute, I was like, is this some sort of old pulpy thing where it's like 6 women that have to learn to take care of each other?
Yeah.
And,
and not as long as my pooper points down.
Right. By the way, calling a butt a pooper will always be funny. The first time I ever heard that was in college, and this guy was like, "Yeah, she has a nice pooper," and it's still funny. It's funnier than Mallrats, and as we know, Mallrats is clearly the funniest movie of all time.
So that is, by the time Mary Laswell uses it, we see the idiom come into its final form. But in summary, why buy the cow where you can get the milk for free, originated from the novelette The Shadow of the Noose by Dr. Ferdinand C. Valentine, one of the founders of the American Urological Association. And in conclusion, I stated at the beginning, this could be seen as a little bit sexist.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give the female version of that phrase, the female comeback. Why take home the whole pig when all you want is a little sausage? And I think it's a funny joke that probably gets less funny the closer a woman gets to her mid-30s. But it's still a pretty good joke.
That is good. That is good. Why don't we move on to something a little less risque with They Walk Among Us? Conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theories.
There's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world known as the Pentaveret.
We know differently, and here's David Stern with the announcement.
First pick, select Patrick Ewing.
Who run everything in the world.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The Queen, the Vatican, the Gettys, the Rothschilds, and Colonel Sanders before he went tits up.
They walk among us.
All right, for today's They Walk Among Us, we're going to, like I said before, move into something a little more wholesome.
Good.
After all this getting the sex for free talk.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be Disney.
Disney, yes.
So Disney is actually the target of many, many conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the old days when I'd have a slow day at work and I would go to Snopes and I would just read all the Disney conspiracy theories.
Yeah. Lots of good conspiracy theories, lots of good urban legends.
Yes,
surrounding.
urban legends. Yeah, exactly. And being a little broad on with They Walk Among Us on conspiracy theories versus urban legends, but I did try going on Snopes earlier this week as I was researching this, and I swear, all I could find was like Trump fact check articles.
Right.
I'm serious. I searched, I was like, where's the good stuff?
Yeah.
And you're just scrolling through this, and I'm going, guys.
Big Orange Man fever.
There should
it's
be
gotten a lot of people.
Yeah, Snopes. Like, have a link that's like, if you want to read about all the Trump stuff, click here. Otherwise, like, you've ruined your website. But anyway, so I thought for today's conspiracy theory, we would talk hidden sexual messages in Disney films.
All right.
All right. So obviously the wholesome stuff was a joke. This won't be wholesome. I remember the first time I heard about one of these was in middle school. And the first one I like noticed or had heard about and sort of said, maybe there's something to it, had to do with The Little Mermaid. There was a rumor that if you looked at the cover of the VHS, there was a phallus, aka a penis, on it. And I remember looking at it and going, holy crap. Like, she had the VHS. They're big Disney people. And it definitely, if you look at it, boy, they looked like penises.
Right.
So, Steve, have you seen this one?
I have seen that before, and it pretty much looks like a penis.
Yeah. If you look at the ones around the outside, not so much.
Yeah.
But right there in the middle, it's like a thin penis going around the middle. And it's like, you look at it and you're like, how could it be anything else?
Yeah, and they could probably use a new bladder irrigator also.
Right. Yeah. Or it looks like maybe it's already had at least one bladder irrigator in there. So I thought what we would do for this segment is talk about some of the popular examples, and I'll do my best to sort of really, I mean, I guess you could say the conspiracy theory or maybe the urban legend is that there are a bunch of, or historically have been rogue artists at Disney who just either as an inside joke or as like a middle finger to Disney have like slipped in subtle sexual messages, which, you know, the idea of that's very compelling because it actually, it's almost like the putting the candy in the Halloween thing where it's like, oh my gosh, you're tainting innocent
Here's something wholesome and it has to be ruined.
You
somehow.
think you have this wholesome, this thing, Disney.
Kind of like when Chick-fil-A started selling kale.
How dare you? So let's start with the Little Mermaid. Now, I will tell you that I used an article from HuffPo for most of this, but I did actually use a couple Snopes things in there as well because I found some of my old Snopes articles. So let's start with the Little Mermaid. So the story that had come out, we talked about, was that there was this penis on the cover, and that was had come from a disgruntled Disney artist who was being laid off. And at the last minute, he put the dirty artwork on the VHS cover as a, middle finger to Disney. So in the HuffPo article, they speak with a gentleman by the name of Tom Saito. He's a former Disney animator, and he actually worked on a lot of the movies we saw as kids, like Aladdin, Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, and more. Okay. So he really is an inside guy here, and he gives his take on a few of these. So when it comes to the Little Mermaid, he says, no, this was not a disgruntled guy. He knows who the guy was.
Right.
He doesn't even work for Disney. He worked for some other company that Disney contracted. And it was just coincidence. I guess they were under the gun. Yeah. Last second, the guy said, look, it was 4 a.m. I kind of, essentially, he's like, I kind of half-assed it with the spires. Right. And this one just happened to look that way.
Right.
So that's a pretty decent debunking of that one. But then there's another one in the Little Mermaid. Do you remember the other sexual thing from the Little Mermaid? This is not supposed to be like a quiz to you, but like, do you remember?
I believe there's a point in the movie when someone gets very excited.
Yeah. So there's a bishop who's marrying the Little Mermaid and the guy, the prince. Yeah. And, you know, if you look at it, the theory here is that the bishop gets an erection during the service. Now, you know, I've watched this a few times and something happens. It gets a little bigger. Yeah. It's like if you watch the video. So it actually turns out that Saito, the guy that's being interviewed, was the artist who created that character. Okay. And drew the scene. And he says it's his knees. The joke was that he's a little man standing on a box and his big bishop robes are draped over everything. So they're covering his whole body and people are just seeing what they want to see.
Right.
So at this point, I'm like, okay, I guess it's a coincidence that there's two phallic things happening in one movie. But this guy does seem to say, look, it's just not happening. Of course, the internet is not convinced. As I looked around a little bit. And part of me is like, hey, this guy worked for Disney for all these years. What's he going to say?
Right.
Right?
But he doesn't want his head end up frozen like Walt Disney.
Yeah, like you don't want to be in there with Ted Williams and Walt Disney. So I did find as I was kind of looking around the internet for other sources, I mean, it's hard to find sources on this. Mostly, if you look for this stuff, it's just people saying the urban legend. But I did think it was funny. There's a website called WeGotThisCovered.com, which is kind of a clickbait site. They said, this is one of those examples that Disney tried to come out and say, everyone's nuts. It's a priest shifting one of his knees. Yet if you watch it, do his feet move at all? Nope. You know what that means, right? Priest boner, for sure. So it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
So let's move on to a couple more.
All right.
And then we'll come to a conclusion at the end. Aladdin. Do you remember Aladdin had that moment where it sounds like they're saying, good teenagers, take off your clothes?
I have not heard that one before.
Okay. So this is one I also remember from middle school.
Okay.
And you hear it. So Jasmine opens these curtains and then it goes,
good teenagers, take off your clothes.
And I remember back watching the VHS, going back and forth and going, oh my gosh, this is what they're saying. Well, here's what Saito says. According to the Aladdin's director's commentary, the line is an ad lib to extend the scene. It's supposed to say like, good tiger, take off and go, you know? And so kind of like with the Paul is dead, you know, the backmasking stuff. If you want to hear it that way, you can hear it.
Good teenagers, take off your clothes.
And then Saito also says, look, it's just misheard. The two animators who were doing that sequence are both very religious guys. That's not their sense of humor. It's absolutely. So I think that one's a for sure.
Right.
No. Let's move on to one. Let's maybe get to one that I can say is real.
Okay.
And you may know about this one, The Rescuers.
No, I actually don't know any about The Rescuers.
Okay. So have you seen The Rescuers?
I have. It's great. It's got Bob Newhart in it. We actually watch it rather frequently at our home. So this will see if we can get
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you may want to be careful because all we've done really so far is debunk. Here's one I'll just go ahead and say it's true. It's undoubtedly true.
Okay, we're going to bunk.
There is a nude woman in one of the scenes, a topless woman. So this is where actually I did use Snopes because I found this in their archive because I remember reading this
You went to the
years ago.
pre-Trump era to see where they actually talked about other things.
So in January of 1999, Disney announced a recall of the home video version of The Rescuers, which had come out in 1977, because, and they admitted it, it contained an objectionable background image. The image, that image was one which appeared approximately 38 minutes into the film as the rodent heroes Bianca and Bernard fly through the city in a sardine box. There's an image of a topless woman which can be seen at the window of a building in the background in 2 non-consecutive frames. So those frames had been in the film ever since the original theatrical release, and that was confirmed by Disney. They said it wasn't anybody at Disney. It was done after the fact, like in the whole process of
post-production, I guess.
Thank you. Yes, post-production. And it was included in the home VHS version. They then, like I said, they announced a recall. Now, here's the thing. And I mean, anybody wants to find, shockingly, you can find these boobs on the internet. And what it is there's 2 frames where there's a clearly nude woman right behind the cartoon characters. And there is a conspiracy within the conspiracy, though. Many people think that the Rescuers really wasn't selling, and Disney, in an attempt to kind of boost sales, got ahead of this and announced, okay, everybody, there's a big recall on the Rescuers because there's a nude woman in it to get people to go buy the thing. Which I do believe. I could totally see that. Yeah. But they also wanted to get ahead of it. Like somebody slipped this in as a gag.
Right.
So
it's got Bob Newhart in it, so it's know, that kind of offsets it.
That's true. The wholesome factor gets evened out there. So that's one that actually did happen. So then you got to think, okay, well, how good is their quality control if they're like not just risque stuff? There's actually boobs in there. Just a couple more. One of the ones that I was for sure was real had to do with Simba kicking up dust in The Lion King.
Yes, and I have heard that one, and I believe that was actually proved
close.
Real. Okay,
close. It was proved real that word was meant to be there. But and so for anyone that hasn't seen this or doesn't know what we're talking about, there's a scene where they're up on a cliff and Simba kicks up dust, and that dust, very briefly, if you slow down the frames, appears to spell out the word in the dust, S-E-X. And it's one that when you watch it, you're like, well, that's not coincidence. Well, it's not coincidence. It was purposely put there, but it's not sex. If you look again, it's S-F-X, sound effects. It's a shout out to the sound team. And if you look at it, you go, okay, that is SFX. Yeah. But what do we want to see? Of course.
Yeah.
Sex. So that's one that we can debunk. The funniest one that I found that I had not seen before, that there's all these supposed, I looked. There's a million of these, and I'm going to wrap it up, but there's a ton of examples. If you even Google this, and by the way, just again, Google on your personal computer, not on your work computer, but, and I even feel weird doing that, but I was Googling, hidden sex images and Disney stuff. There's a ton of ones out there. There are a ton of examples where people are trying to say, oh, look, these stars make a boob, or like there lots of penis, like this is a penis. And it's like, and you look at it and you're like, okay, on minute whatever of Beauty and the Beast, this guy's elbow gets close to this guy's nose, and that's a penis. And you look at it and you're like, you're really stretching.
Right.
There is one though that to me, this is a penis. Like this guy did this as a penis, and it's from actually one of my favorite Disney movies that kind of, I think, goes under the radar, which is Hercules. Oh. I found this on The Sun, so you know it's good.
Yep.
And they were pointing out all this risque stuff, and most of them I said, nah, it's bunk. But then they put this one, it says, I just quoted from here because I like the way they put it. They said, Hercules is yet another Disney classic to contain a hidden todger. It's a todger. Todger. I looked it up, and the word todger, according to dictionary.com, todger is a variant of tadger, which means anything of a thick consistency or short and fat. So I thought that was funny that they referred to it. But anyway, it's this point, and actually this is going to be one where I will show you, Steve, because I want to get your reaction. And by the way, you probably shouldn't Google this one, because if you start Googling Hercules penis, you get a lot of like ED treatment stuff comes up.
Well,
so unless that's what you're looking for.
Good to know.
All right, so Steve, look at this and tell me that this can be anything other than an erect penis.
Whoa, that's a penis, and
Right.
that's a set of. I guess they're not Todgers, but there's a set of something with that.
Right. I mean,
That's a penis.
That's a penis. So, that then again starts making me wonder about these other ones. So the last one I went into with is from Roger Rabbit. There's a car crash and Jessica Rabbit gets thrown from the vehicle, and it appears for a minute that her nether regions are exposed. And I watched it once, and then it was like, you find these videos where people are like slow motioning to see, and I'm like, look, it's a cartoon person, and whether or not that's actually like
underpants.
Underpants or whatever.
Or maybe squirrel covers would be the prop, since it's Disney and wholesome. We want to say Speaksie squirrel covers instead.
Right. Hopefully it's just a squirrel cover, but it got me thinking about it, and I think this whole idea is very, it's creepy, but it's also, you can understand the fascination with just could something so wholesome and innocent that it's supposed to be. But Roger Rabbit was a little bit risque. I remember there was controversy when it came out, at least in my household.
There was also in mine,
Yeah. So just to wrap it up, I wanted to bring up Roger Rabbit so that I could read this quote from Saito. So according to the Huffington Post article, it says Saito didn't confirm the scandalous Roger Rabbit scene. He explained, but then he went on to explain that adding inside jokes into older films wasn't considered a big deal. And he said, quote, in pre-video and pre-VHS and VCR and stuff, people used to put little inside jokes in films because they were running at 1/24th of a second, and you'd think, oh, nobody's going to see this. So cartoonists could do stuff like that as a joke. He said, but since the modern age of playing back stuff and everything, they look at everything now, even the old films. They'll go frame by frame, and they'll pull those questionable things out all the time. So think about what he just said. He basically, in my mind, just admitted that, there's a ton of stuff like this because you go watch it at a movie theater, you're not going to see that. But they couldn't have foreseen, I guess they really couldn't have foreseen that any schmo was going to be able to go on something called the internet, slow it down and find these little frames.
And if they could, that they would use their time to do that instead of doing something more valuable.
He refused to give up any actual stuff. And he said, hey, if I did have any dirt on any of these old things, I wouldn't tell you anyway. So my conclusion on all this, my takeaway, is that I think it's possible that all of these were meant to be sexual innuendo.
I would agree with you too. The fact that I could see myself, if I'm a animator doing stuff, to throw in jokes that only other animators are going to see.
Yep.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. So be careful with what you show your kids, although this is really simpler times. You think now, you're going to find Momo on YouTube or something. You know what that is.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yeah. There's actual, it's very easy now to see real penis. You don't need to, to scoot through to find hidden bare breasts in The Rescuers, which, by the way, is a great movie.
It is a good one. And I don't know if you know this, Bob Newhart's in it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that is our They Walk Among Us.
All right, so before we get to our last euphemism in this case, I'm going to give you some more cow facts, because once I get started on our last subject, you're not going to want to think about food for a while. So from Encyclopedia Britannica, here's some selected breeds of beef cattle and their names. 1, Angus.
Yeah.
You've all heard of that. Originally from Scotland, some of their characteristics: hornless, black, compact, low set.
Can I give a quick Angus related nugget?
Yes.
Before we move on.
Mm-hmm.
So my last name means son of Angus. Guinness comes from Angus in, I guess it's Gaelic.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I wanted to, if I had another son, I wanted to name him Angus. Right. And that didn't get a lot of support. But anyway, Angus.
Well,
that
an alternative
forefather.
could be another breed called a Brangus.
I like that.
Which is a crossbreed of a Brahman bull and an Angus. Continuing, a breed called Beefmaster.
Oh, that's good.
That's just a smart. It was developed in Texas. Big surprise. 1908. One that doesn't sound like a Beefmaster. The Belgian Blue. So shout out to Belgium.
Yeah.
Where I'm from. But a Belgian blue, like that doesn't make me think that's going to sound like a good steak.
No, that sounds like something you'd go to Dr. Ferdinand for.
Yeah. Or you would go find at your local gentleman's club on the main stage.
Right.
Belgian blue might be coming out. And finally, my last one, the limousine.
The limousine.
Originally France, now also North America. I think I've never heard of that before, but I'd be interested in.
These names are fantastic.
They
because
are.
If you think about I feel like there are other parts of science. It's like, okay, we found a new star. This is like, some science name. Mm-hmm. They came out with Beefmaster, Belgian Blue, and the limousine. I mean, it's like it sounds like a bunch of dudes that are just like,
yeah. And we talked earlier about, different, how people choose different medical fields.
Yeah.
So to kind of go the other way, earlier when I was referencing the Journal of from the American Urology Association, I read the article titles. One of them was The Persistence of Gonococcus in the Prostate.
Are you going to read those again?
No,
okay.
But you're going to wish I did, because we're going to do it for our last one is the euphemism for gonorrhea, the clap.
Oh, the clap. Now, okay. I thought the clap was chlamydia. Is that's not the case?
That is not the case. That often, during my wonderful research I did, not as maybe even more exciting than your Disney research.
Right.
I came across that as often due to similar symptoms. Those, and also I think chlamydia starting with a C, those get conflated sometimes. But no, gonorrhea. When someone says a clap, you should correct them and tell them they're talking about gonorrhea.
I'll remember that for next time someone tells me they have the clap.
Yeah. So perhaps like a lot of people, I was aware of gonorrhea. Let me rephrase that. I've been aware of gonorrhea as an STD, but it really didn't come into my consciousness until the 1990s when I heard this.
Dan Marino should die of gonorrhea and rot in hell. Would you like a cookie, son?
Great scene, Mrs. Finkel.
And one of my favorite memories of that was, I don't know if when you saw that movie, it became very quotable to you, like all the time. I remember going on a vacation with my brother after that movie came out, where I decided that it would be funny in public to speak out of my backside. If you remember, if you've seen Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and I remember my brother actually quoting the Dan Marino quote verbatim during dinner one time. Which wasn't a good move, but was worth it to see the look on my father's face to wonder why he was saying that.
I mean, that movie for a while would have been what I would probably consider my favorite movie of all time, and way better than Mallrats, and even more quotable than Mallrats. But it is one that you forget. Mm-hmm. That it's not one that you really want to like break out with the kids at a certain age. Like it's got a lot of stuff like that if it gets repeated, you're going to get called to the teacher's going to call and say, we're okay with Taco Tuesday, not Holy Testicle Tuesday,
And how come your child's not watching Mallrats like a good person?
Yeah, really.
What sort of parents are you?
Yeah.
So, gonorrhea. I'm going to go to our friends at the CDC and the gonorrhea fact sheet. Just give you a little background before we get to the clap. What is gonorrhea? Gonorrhea is a sexually transmitted disease that can infect both men and women. It can cause infection in the genitals, rectum, and throat. It is a very common infection, especially among young people ages 15 to 24.
Whew. Bullet dodged.
Yeah. So one of the things I like about this is how do I reduce my risk of getting gonorrhea?
Buy the cow.
That actually is one way to say that. So being in a long-term mutually monogamous relationship with a partner, and this is crucial, who has been tested and has negative STD test results. So I like the idea that they made it clear, it's good to be monogamous. However, just because if you're monogamous with Gonorrhea Greg, probably not going to work out well for you.
You should have probably figured it out by his name, but that's kind of on you. But that would be bad if you're like you save yourself from it, but you never had that conversation and you find out after the fact. Like, welcome to the world of gonorrhea.
So I'm actually trimming back a lot of what I was going to share, but I'm going to do one last thing, which leads into our definition. So you might ask, how do I know if I have gonorrhea? Several symptoms: a burning sensation when urinating, a white, yellow, or green discharge from the penis, or painful or swollen testicles, although this is less common. And please know that dialed back many other things that could have been shared that are very factual.
That's like the stuff that was left over that you felt like you could say, because that's pretty gross.
Yeah, it is. Okay. It's awful. So after hearing the symptoms discussed, and also the name gonorrhea is not not a fun name to say. It makes sense that there would be a euphemism for this.
Yeah.
So let's find out why. Well, I think we understand why gonorrhea need a euphemism, but why the clap? So we're gonna explore some theories. So we're gonna go to a website that I think we bring up maybe every 3 shows, stdcheck.com.
Yeah, back to STD check, huh? Okay.
Yeah, stdcheck.com gives 3 options here, 3 origin stories that you pretty much will find most places that you go, and I'll tell you here at the end which one is true. But the article is entitled "Why is Gonorrhea Called the Clap?" And there's several theories that they have. One is from the Old English word clapan, meaning to beat or throb. This could be an origin for gonorrhea's byname, stemming from the common symptoms of burning, painful urination and a throbbing sensation.
Ugh. Okay. I mean, I could see that.
Yeah. Number 2 is from a treatment that was used for the clap.
Oh, God.
And the treatment used to be that people would take the penis and clap hard on both sides of it simultaneously to try to clear the urethra of pus or discharge.
I like to visualize that with like erasers. You know what I mean? Like go bang out the erasers. Oh, this for all the old people out there that remember when you had to erase the chalkboard.
Yeah.
Just beat the bejesus out of the clap.
Yeah.
That one doesn't seem real.
Yeah. And the final one is from the old French word for brothel, clapier.
Oh, that's it.
Prostitutes were housed in clapier brothels in Middle French language dating back to 1850s. Clapier is also used to refer to a rabbit's nest or hutch, again with rabbits known for their prolific sex lives. So I am going to be very merciful on our listeners and cut this short because I had a lot of information to share on this.
I think
and I'm going to even turn this off as I listen to it.
I'm going to go take some penicillin. I'm going to give my computer some penicillin.
So maybe we'll make a bonus episode with all my other leftover gonorrhea facts to share. So I would say that the clap goes back to clapier.
Got to be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, best way to not get it.
Buy that cow.
Yeah. Buy that cow. As long as that cow's been tested for an STD and does not have a nickname of Gonorrhea Greg.
Thank you so much for listening to Origin of Species. Please be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Speakcies, and that's spelled SPEAKCIES. If you want to leave us a voicemail, call 804-621-5803. And remember, you can become a Speacies supporter by going to patreon.com/Speacies. By pledging any amount of money, you'll unlock exclusive content. You'll also get to hear exclusive podcasts like True Facts with Robert Banquette, Personal Records, and the newest podcast, Cringe Watch, which features Steve and a very special co-host. Thank you very much for listening to Origin of Species. Bob's your uncle.
Watch out for bears, and kale is from the devil.
Speaksies.
Whoa, that's a penis.